What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Utica, New York. I'm joined by my co-host today, Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of LAF Advisors. And ladies and gentlemen, I usually at this time ask Shawn how he's doing. I bring him on to the show, but we have some very exciting news here on the Scratch Agency podcast, and I have to let you know that we are in the presence of the 2023 Joel S. Pollock Next Gen Agent of the Year award recipient from the Big I, New York, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald. How are we doing today, sir?
Dude, I am doing awesome. Thanks for the intro. I appreciate it. I didn't know where you were going with that because you had an achievement of yourself recently of hitting 100 5-star reviews in your first year opening the agency, which is an accomplishment in itself. So congratulations to you too, man. But
well, we can
it was an honor to win that award.
Tell us about the event. Tell us about the Big I event. Tell us about the award dinner. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was the annual GoBig event that Big I had recently. It was a great event, man. It's kind of, you and I were talking offline the other day of like how invaluable like networking is, right? And you can't really put a price on, kind of like with cold calling. Hey, if I make 1,000 calls, this is my return, right? You can't really do that with networking. And networking through the Big I has been really beneficial for me just because you talk to so many different carrier partners are there, wholesalers are there, other local agents are there that are trying to better themselves. So, I've heard other people say like, why do you go to these things? Your competition's there. Why are you going to the same thing as your competition? At the end of the day, like the people that are going there are the people that are trying to better themselves and get ahead in their career. And those are the people that I want to be around. Listen, if we step on each other's toes a little bit, that's okay. But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get better and be there for each other. And it's a great group. And I learned a lot going to that Go Big event. They had 2 speakers in particular that I wanted to talk about real quick. One was this lady named Brooke from Marshberry, and she's a business consultant. She started talking about the hard market we're in and kind of how to handle the renewal process in a hard market. And it was a really good conversation. It's kind of some of the stuff most people know, like, hey, follow up, 90 days before the renewal, let them know what's going on. But she like defined that conversation in detail, which helped me a lot. So for instance, like if you have a large commercial client that's renewing in 120 days, 4 months out, giving them a call, even if you don't know they're going to have a rate increase, but just giving them a call and telling them, hey, I just wanted to check in on you, give you a little state of the market. This is kind of what I'm seeing happening right now. It doesn't mean you're getting an increase, but it's highly likely you might. And I just wanted to give you as much of a heads up as possible. This way you're not surprised and getting a renewal last second that came in much higher than you expected. This way it helps them budget. It makes them think like, wow, Shawn's really on top of this. He's calling me 4 months before my policy even renews. And it just sets a good precedent. I literally just had this happen. I had a commercial auto go from like 27,000 to 40-something thousand. And I had that conversation with the lady. The conditional renewal came in. And when I had that conversation, because I always, right when that letter comes out, I give them a call and just, basically break down. Let her know that we're working on it. We're remarketing it. We're seeing if there's anything we can do with your current carrier to fix it. And the conversation went so much better because I had that initial conversation, like warning her that this might happen. So I just think that was a really good thing I wanted to share that that Go Big had on. And then they had an economist come on, talk about, the state of the economy, what's going on in the markets, why we're in a hard market, where we think the market's going to be in a few months. And that guy, is stuff we kind of knew, right? Like inflation, catastrophes, storm damage, reinsurance pressure, kind of like why we're in this place where we're seeing a ton of rate increases and limited carriers and things of that nature. So, man, great learning opportunity. I know there's a lot there, but great learning opportunity, great networking opportunity. I was super thankful to be there, and I'm very glad that since I opened my agency, I've gotten way more involved with Big I and other networking opportunities. And like I said before, just it's invaluable, man,
Well, that's all great information, but you're being humble here. Let's learn more about this award. Tell us about the award. Tell us how it happened. Tell us what it stands for and all that stuff.
Yeah, so listen, I would love to sit here and tell you why I won the award. I don't know. I was completely surprised. I was very honored, but I was truthfully very surprised.
So you had no idea.
I mean, I had no idea at all. I had no idea. So when I walked in, I sat down and they started talking, and they were like, this next award's for an agent that opened in 2020, and I'm like, this is starting to kind of sound like me. Oh, he has his own podcast. I'm like, I see where this is going. And then, they just announced my name. I went up and got the award. Was super nervous. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to give a speech, so I did one of my awkward waves and just sat back down real quick. And then, the rest is history, I guess.
Well, we've talked about it a little bit when we had Brian from the Big Guy. It was Brian that we had on, right? I'm trying to.
Brian Bixby.
Yeah, Brian Bixby. Yep. But if it wasn't for the Big Eye and my journey of starting the agency, I don't know if I would have been able to fully go through with it. And Mike Crowley gave me an introduction to the membership person at the Big Eye in New York. Said, this guy's name's Steven. This is what he's doing. This is what he's looking to do. Can you help him? And if it wasn't for somebody by the name of Christine Neat, who we both know and love, that just grabbed me by the hand and took me through the journey of starting an agency in New York State, I don't know. So to your point, the networking's one thing, but the resources I think people overlook and aren't really aware of how much resources are there. So I was bummed to miss it, especially since it's right down in your neighborhood. Last year was where we met for the first time, which is kind of full circle. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's insane. And everyone I tell that story to, their mind is blown. Like, how did you and Steven meet? And I explain that the Big Eye and all that stuff. It's a crazy story. But hey, this is again invaluable, right? Like, who would have thought that you and I would meet at an insurance networking event, start a podcast, and become really good friends and basically therapists for each other?
And invaluable in the sense of the IOA conference. I'm looking forward to that one coming up in October, and that's more of these nuggets on a national stage, right, where you can meet people from across the country. But I know you the same. I've gotten a couple good referrals either from just the podcast or from meeting people at IOA that have turned into good clients. And if you're not trying to constantly learn, and I think the Big Eye and their events and the IOA events and stuff like that are a perfect example of that. If you're not trying to constantly learn, then what's the point, in my opinion?
Yeah, I mean, perfect example of this is I met an agency owner. Shout out to David Borg from Borg & Borg Insurance on Long Island. He's got a very large agency, probably 10x the size of mine. And I met him at one of these Big Eye events, and he kind of took me under his wing, showed me how everything works. And, man, I can call that guy and pick his brain about anything. Hey, I'm thinking about hiring this person. What do you think? Hey, I'm at this stage of my business. I know you've been through the same thing. What do you think? And to have that relationship is again, it's priceless. So these are all the little things that you might not think about when you're trying to get involved. And I'm not saying you have to join Big Eye. I mean, there's plenty of other ones. But I highly recommend it, especially if you're a newer agent. Invaluable. Would you agree?
You can't do it yourself. You cannot do it yourself. Shawn and I were talking this morning, and pardon my French, but I texted Shawn and just said, life's hard, this shit's hard, have a good day. And I think people need to have the conversation more of it's hard. Whether you're starting any business, whether you're starting a scratch agency like we are, and juggling you starting a family or, whatever it is. I mean, our friend Maverick starting an agency with 3 kids under 3, you kidding me? I don't have 1 kid. I mean, and everybody's got different stories, and it's.
Maverick posted a picture. He was pushing a stroller with 2 kids, and he had the carrier with the kid in the carrier, and my head just exploded. I was like, I don't know how in the world he does it.
I got anxiety about just pushing the kids, let alone running an agency while doing it. But I mean, I guess the
Exactly.
point of bringing that up is like it's hard, and it's okay to just like to say that. How are things going? It's hard, and it's
Yeah.
valuable, or it's invaluable to be able to build something yourself. And like for myself, of just coming off of my first year, like I'm starting to feel that, right, of like seeing the reward of especially when those renewals come. I can't wait. That 13th month is coming right around the corner. Let's go. But it's hard, and it's okay to say that. And you joked about us being each other's therapists, and I'm not trying to make this a therapy session, that's for sure. But I think it's okay to be honest. Kind of, it's hard. I'm in the trenches, starting to scratch agency. I'm trying to figure it out, but here we are, and it's all part of my story. And here's what I'm going after.
I mean, shout out to Ryan Hanley for starting that Finding Peak, newsletter that he does, because I think it's great to bring awareness to like the mental and physical side of being in this business. I mean, you and I were talking offline, like what percentage do you think is mental? It's probably 90+% mental,
Oh yeah.
in this business.
Oh,
And
easy.
yeah, and I think you have to be paying attention to yourself physically, working out, trying to stay in shape, eating right, because that all impacts the way that you run your agency and how you feel on a day-to-day basis, right? Like, think about it. If I get a workout in the morning and I got a good sweat in and I'm feeling good, I'm feeling confident, I feel like I'm, progressing, I'm checking off a box, like you're going to tackle the day with way more confidence than if you wake up late, you're not putting a nice outfit on. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
all that plays a role just into mentality, the mental aspect of it. So, I mean, I looked into this before you and I hopped on this call, Steven. It was just interesting about business being hard. And look at this list of things that came up. I think it's 100% spot on. Being a business owner, you have to deal with risk, working long hours. So you and I can attest there's plenty of nights it's 15 plus hours, right? The financial management aspect of it, right? So it's not just selling policies. You got to know how to budget and everything we talked about with, agency CFO last week. You got to know about staffing. You got to know about marketing. You got to know about sales, adaptation to change, dealing with competition, work-life balance. I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm not trying to be negative, like you said.
No, I don't think you're
It's
being
not all
negative, but here's the
sunshine and
power in
roses.
everything. Here's the power in everything you've said there is that a majority of those things you don't know how to you don't know how to tackle it until you have to tackle it. And if there's anything that I've said way too much, not way too much, if there's anything I've said a lot over the last year starting this agency is the only way to figure it out is to figure it out. The only time to figure it out is when you have to figure it out. Right? The only time to figure it
Yeah,
out is when I don't know what to do about this like financial piece of running a business. Well, you got to figure it out because you have a business now.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I
And I
think
think,
and that's where like coming right back around with like the resources from Big Guy or the connections of like the friendship that you and I have made of hey Shawn, I'm running into this. Have you run into that before? Like you can't do it
yes,
alone. You can't do it alone.
yeah, learning from other people's mistakes, not your own,
And we
which
talk
is
about
nice
this a
too to
lot
do
on this
sometimes.
podcast. We talk about it a lot, but like I've never been in another industry. But man, the people that are willing to give, the people that are willing to share, like you said, the individual that you talked to that's right in your backyard and he was able to help you, it's
Yeah,
priceless.
yeah, and a
So
lot of
it's
times you just need
okay
to
to
hear
say
that,
that it's
right?
hard, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. And it is hard, and it should be hard. And if it's not hard, then you're probably doing something wrong, or you're just kind of cruising along. You know what I mean?
Hmm. What's going
But
on at LAF?
uh, man, a whole bunch of stuff is going on. Speaking of the business being hard, I'm writing a lot of business. I've lost a couple of things I was trying to bring on new. It's just part of the game. I figured we're talking about stuff being hard. I might as well talk about a loss, right? So I had a bar in New York City I was trying to write. Great. I mean, great establishment. I insured the builder's risk. They were going through construction and doing like a whole new renovation and build out and everything. And they were about to open and they needed a new, package policy with liquor liability and all that fun stuff. And the hospitality markets, it's in my wheelhouse. And I learned a great lesson from this whole process. So Basically, I gave the insured my quote. I went out to market. I, figured out who the player was based off their ratio of liquor to food sales and all that stuff. I got a price. I sat down with them in person, gave them the numbers. Everything looked good. And they told me straight up, like, hey, I'm having another broker look into this. And, just to kind of keep you on your toes. Like, they basically told me that. And I said, listen, I get it. Just know that I have access to all the markets that are available for your type of risk. I went to the markets. So if they ask you to sign a change of broker or something and try to take my work away, just, if you don't mind, please don't do that. Because this is why it's a bad thing to do that. And then I basically just explained to them, like, also, just make sure you give me last look, right? So they get a quote from this other agent, and it was a market that I actually went to. And when I went to that market, they said it wasn't a fit because of the liquor, the food sales, and all that stuff. So
those are always fun conversations.
Long story short, I could have done a better job because when I approached that one market that said it wasn't a fit, I should have asked for a declination letter. And if I had that declination letter, the other broker would have been blocked out. I mean, technically the wholesaler should have blocked them out anyway, but they didn't. So whatever, that's on me. I should have asked for it. But the other price was less expensive, and they wound up going with the other broker who finagled the sales a little bit to make it fit into that program. So, no excuses. Like I said, I should have got the declination letter, and this wouldn't have happened in the first place. But just a great learning lesson for the future. Right now, anytime I'm sitting down with a restaurant or bar and I go to these two markets I know are the best, I'm going to make sure that other one gives me a declination letter. You know what I mean? So having some wars. Shout out to a lot of shout outs today. Shout out to David Carruthers. He gave me a little bit of assistance on that one. He's a phone call away from the Killing Commercial gang. And yeah, besides that, man, just my producers writing a bunch of personal lines policy. The market here on Long Island is super tough. Limited carriers, premiums are going up like crazy. So there's a lot of pain in the market, which is a good thing for us because a lot of people are shopping and, they're looking for that agent that's going to pay attention to detail. So, man, we're moving and grooving. And what I was going to talk about, what you were just speaking about before, is just having patience, man. Like, this is the time, like, we're being aggressive. We're on the offense, but we're also being defensive with the renewals, right? But I'm also trying to be patient. Like, hey, it's going to take time to grow this agency. I'm 3 years in. It's, I'm thinking long term, 10, 20 plus years, So I try to keep that in my mind whenever I'm like, man, am I where I'm supposed to be right now? You know what I mean? Because that's a thing that pops up all the time. So, I mean, hopefully that answered your question. I don't know if you wanted to dive a little deeper into any of that stuff.
Well, I think the interesting question there is, are you further than you were at this time last year? Because the only person you compare yourself to is you. And we talk about that a lot, about not worrying about what your neighbor's doing for premium or someone posting a group. I don't hire till I get to $2 million in premium, but like, I can tell you that T5 is in a much better place than it was last month at this time because I've done certain things over the last month that has improved our business and procedures and made changes and whatever.
Yeah.
Month to month.
Yeah.
So like, here we go back with the mental thing. Like, just remind yourself of that. Like when you say, well, I'm only 3 years in, but like I got to remind myself to be patient. Yeah, you do have to remind yourself to be patient. But you also need to remind yourself of like what last year looked like and the year before that or 6 months ago. Or if you do have now a staff of 2, 3, 4, 5 people, what it was when it just was you, right? And remember those days. And like, that's why I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, a local financial advisor who's a good friend of mine. He was like, oh, how things going? I said, it's hard. And we were talking through, and I said, I'm just trying to find the value in appreciating the days in the trenches, right? And then when you look at it that way, I think you enjoy the shit out of it, really. Because you just think back at like your imagination of what it's going to be in the next 5-10 years, and like, man, this is what I'm building, and then that gives you that little push to keep going.
Dude, I totally agree. I mean, we don't share a lot of the dark times on this podcast, but yeah, man, people don't.
Well, we are today. It's turned into a therapy session.
Yeah, we are today. Yeah, for real. I know. But tell me, Steven, tell me about what you got going on. You hired someone, your first employee. Tell us a little bit about that, how that's going.
Yeah, I got my first VA.
You're so
She
happy. I could
started.
see it on your face.
Oh my God. So I had one of the first things that I had her do was one company I have, one regional company, um, still mails us policies. They mail it to the office. And so what I've done, is because we're
Mm.
paperless, is I shred the policy they mail, pull the PDF, and email it to the client. And so one of the first things I taught her to do, because we write quite a bit of homeowners policies with this one carrier, one of the
Mhm.
things I taught her to do was just simply go onto the website, pull the PDF, and email it to me. Simple task.
Yeah.
And I mean, she had it down within like 5 minutes after watching a 3-minute Loom video. She had it back to me in 5 minutes, including watching the Loom video. And I can't tell you the adrenaline that I felt from just having somebody else do another task within the agency. Like, it was the coolest thing. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I didn't go in and grab that policy. And man, it is such a minimal
Mm.
thing, but if you divide that up by how
Yeah.
many policies a week we do with that carrier or whatever it is, and so it's been good. Yeah. So actually, she started part time, and after the first week, I offered her to come on full time, which she's going to in the next couple of weeks. She's got some personal stuff that she's dealing with that she can't come on full time for a couple of weeks, but it gives me another opportunity to get more. But I'm following the Billy Williams method. I'm teaching her the agency standards. I'm teaching her how to quote and or how to work in the management system, how to assign tasks, and it's been really good of kind of just saying, today we're going to work on blank. And right now she's just part time, so she's
Yeah.
working for me from noon to 4. So it gives me the morning to
Mhm.
kind of get some things to set up. And I'm saying this is all we're working on. For example, how to enter a client into the management system, right? So I
Yep.
had her do that 10 times yesterday. Now she can do it, no problem. I'll never forget
Beautiful.
at the IOA conference, um, Billy Wagner spoke, and he said like how they'll teach their people how to scan a document into the scanner 20 times over until they know how to, right? So like the repetitive of just
Yeah.
doing that,
Just
like at,
repetition. Yeah.
just putting the name in for our management system and CRM system, we got to go to the management system first, and then it drags to the CRM. So you just got to put the name and address into the agency management to initiate it. So it's nothing crazy. So she probably after the second one got the hang of it, but I made her do it 10 times, and now she's doing it like clockwork. So yeah, it's been super
Mm.
cool. It's been very interesting. It's definitely forcing me to do things that I wouldn't do otherwise unless I had her. So forcing me to be more particular about my processes, or forcing me to get, more information down on the quote sheet, for example, or whatever it is. So it's been good. So, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's only been like 2 weeks. So it's been kind of cool because
I
she's picking up on stuff fast.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm listen, I'm happy for you because I know you've been waiting for that moment for a while. The processes and procedures, it's crazy how many of them you think you have down until you hire somebody. And then you're like, holy
Oh yeah,
crap, there's like a million more processes and procedures. So I found
yeah,
like after I onboarded Anna, I just every day I was adding more and more and more and more and more. And I was like, oh, I'm finally getting to a good spot. And then Ryan came on board, and I'm like, oh crap, I need all these process procedures for a producer. And I was like, add more and more and more. And it's honestly just never ending. But it's funny how you can't even really see all those tasks 'cause it's hard to like vision them all until the person's on board. I mean, you could have a little bit of a base, but yeah, man, keep building those out because those are invaluable. And that's how you're going to build a system, you know?
Well, what does everybody say? Hire before you think you need to. And like I kept telling myself that for months. I probably
Yeah.
should have done this 4 or 5 months ago. And I was
Yeah.
telling myself that all the time. And I kept telling myself, well, I'm going to wait to renewals, which is what I did. And I made it, and we're
Mhm.
fine. But what could have looked like if I did it a little sooner? And
Yeah.
the VA thing for me was a lot of people I've had conversations about what's the first T5 employee going to look like, whether it's a VA or in person or whatever it is. It just came down to like cost and what I needed to be done. And
Yeah.
like I said, pulling the
I get
policy
that.
from the carrier website, like uh, it's a simple task, but if I can just fire that off in the management system and they're done, it's done, and multiply
Well,
that by how many
well, think of
how many tasks we do.
yeah. Well, think about this too. You brought them on. It's a lower cost, right? They're virtual. It's making you a little bit more efficient right now. I mean, you're doing a lot of training, I'm sure, but you're also
Yeah.
building out your process and procedures. So now when you do hire that in-person full-time, individual, you're going to have all this nice base and training laid out for them. You know what I mean? So I think it's a great start for both of us. I started with a VA too. I think it's a great start. And what's beautiful about a VA is it really does you start thinking of ways to make yourself more efficient and make the agency more efficient. Like you said, just pulling a simple little thing like pulling the policy. And then you're going to think of, oh, yeah, then I can have her scan through current clients to see who's missing an email or who's missing a phone number and, starting to make sure all your data is in the right place. And, I mean, there's so much you can have them do, run cancellation reports, pull a list from your agency management system, which is monoline homeowners clients. So then you could try to cross-sell them on auto. I mean, there's so many things you can have them do.
Well,
So from an
what you're
efficiency
saying,
standpoint, it's exciting.
what you're saying is exactly what's happening to me. So I have her for 4 hours a day because she's part-time. And at this time, I don't have a complete I'm not available to just sit with her for 4 hours and train, right? But I'm doing late night Loom videos for the next day or whatever it is. But it's forcing me to say, hey, Canva? Can you go in and do this for me for social media? And like all of these different tasks that I'm either, to your point, pushing off or getting a spreadsheet done or whatever it is. It's forcing you to not only put the procedures in place and do all of those things and kind of learn more about your operation and yourself, I guess, as an agent, but those things that you maybe want to do until you needed to do them or had more time, which we all love that. When I have more time, well, guess what? You're never going to have more time, right?
That's right. The training, how is that working out? Are you mainly doing Loom
videos?
Are you doing like a daily
it's
phone
been really
call
good
for now?
Yeah,
I love Loom.
It's been a mixture of Loom and then recorded Zoom calls. One thing about like how to do an insurance binder, I did like a step-by-step process on a Word document. And I asked her, I'm like, would you rather have the video or that? She's like, no, video's fine because I can put it up on one screen and whatever and follow it. So I think it's just depending on the individual that you have too. But Loom's been super cool because like now I'm going to start getting her quoting. So this morning I was doing some quotes and all I had to do was turn on my Loom and just basically talk through the process in the meantime and getting a quote done and send that off to her. Watch this a couple times and tomorrow we'll walk through it, how to do it. So then we'll jump on a Zoom call and then live I'll do another one. And then I'm recording that Zoom call as well. And then she'll ask questions. And what I think one of the coolest things is like the first conversation I had is like, I want you to be able to like call me out. Like, hey, you said this was going to be here and it's not here. And she's been great about it. Like, hey, on this quote sheet, this was missing. Yeah, you're right. I forgot to put that there. This is what it is. Right. And like, but you need that because again, that's making me better.
That's a
to
good
your
point. Yeah. No, that is a good point. One thing with the training too is I found that training, because we're really talking about somebody we're training virtually, right? They're not in the office at all. So one thing that's worked well for me too is role playing. So for instance, like I have Anna doing certificates of insurance. So if it's New York has all these freaking complicated certificates for contractors. So if I get a certificate request in, I'll say, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call. She shares her screen and I tell her to, hey, generate the COI for me. And I watch her walk through it. And if she makes, I have the Loom video on how to do it, but every situation's slightly different, right? So that's where I feel like the role playing comes into handy. You can kind of on the fly and you record the Zoom and save it in a Google Drive or wherever training folder you have. And, walk her through it. Hey, yeah, that looks good, but why did you do it that way? Did you know there's a shortcut you can do over here? And, just make sure you add this wording over here. And I found those to be invaluable. They are obviously a lot more time consuming, but if you can also implement that.
But think of the time on the back end.
It's worked really well. Yeah, exactly.
That's what's going to be invaluable.
That's what's going to be invaluable. Who knows?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Shawn, let's wrap this up.
But that's all I got, man.
I'm going to have to bill your insurance for this therapy session if we keep going after, over this 40 minutes or wherever we're at. Hey, I think it's good. I think it's good to open up the curtain a little bit, and it's okay to just say, man, this is hard. right? I had a conversation with another agent that's starting scratch, and they were like, "Oh, I've never shared this with anybody, but like, stuff's tight. It's hard. I'm struggling, and
Yep.
like, it's okay. You can still be doing good. You can still be doing good, and it's hard, right? Like, I'm still getting an influx of quotes. I'm still getting this and that, but now my renewal is coming. Now it's hard. We're all trying to figure it out, and we're all in this together, and that's what we're here for, and that's why Shawn and I are being a little bit vulnerable with everybody to be able to just say, look, it's okay, push through, you can get through it. If there's anything that either of us can do for anybody, feel free to reach out, and we'll talk to you next time. But everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show and share the show and subscribe. Most importantly, remember to get down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.